Hello, everybody. Welcome to 3 Point Perspective, the podcast about illustration, how to do it, how to make a living at it, and how to make an impact in the world with your art. I'm Jake Parker.
I'm Lee White.
And I'm Will Terry, and all of us are professional illustrators. We've all worked for all the major publishers in the business. Together, we published somewhere around 75 books, and we've all taught illustration at university art schools.
That's right. Each week we come at you guys with different listener questions and sometimes fancy pants interviews. Sometimes we're going to argue, sometimes we're going to agree, but each time you're going to learn something brand spanking new.
I think we should actually get fancy pants and wear those on interview days. Nobody would know. Nobody knows whether or not we're wearing fancy pants right now.
We'd have to stand up and show our fancy pants.
I'm wearing my Liberace sequins pants right now.
Same. I'm wearing a prom dress from the waist down.
I have no pants. I mean, I have pants on.
Will's getting fancy.
That is fancy.
All right, we've got a ton of great questions today. Let's get right down to it. We can do our witty banter later on in this episode. First question is from Carly Ann. She says, I have an Instagram following. Now what? Dear Jake, Will, and Lee, I've been fortunate to grow a decent social media following since joining SVS, but I'm in an awkward stage where I've started to receive requests or collabs to be an ambassador, quote unquote, for products, but with kind of random brands. I've just been ignoring these requests when they're unrelated to my niche. For example, I got an offer to create a perfume line for free. I've also, Lee, you got a perfume line going right now, don't you?
I do. It's in collaboration with Khloe Kardashian.
It's called Essence of No Shower.
It's called 5 hours on the pickleball court. That's Will's. That's Will's perfume.
Got a hint of pickle.
Anyways, Carly Ann continues. I've also been contacted about watches, jewelry, leggings, dog collars. I don't even have a dog. I'm being offered free products, so it's not just their attempt to get me to resell their product at my own cost, but some of it does feel sketchy or spammy. Should I be taking them up on these opportunities since collaboration is a great way to grow, or am I right to stick to my niche, which is cute art and illustration tips? Are there other ways to collab or to get sponsorships and artists that you know of or recommend? Deeply appreciate your advice you do for all of us. Thank you, heart emoji, Carly Ann. All right, so your trust in your gut is right in this aspect. Everybody knows that the eyeballs right now are on the little glass screens that we hold in our hands. That's where all the attention is. And so advertisers are looking for every way possible to get in front of these. And chances are the emails that you're getting aren't even written by a human. Or maybe one was written by a human, but they automate these out and they send them. They have these lists of Instagram accounts with, 50,000 followers or 100,000 followers, or you could pay more and you can get a list of Instagram accounts with 500,000 or 1 million. And it just sends them out. And then they hope that somebody's like, yeah, I'll do it. And they send a product, which costs them, hardly anything to produce because it costs 50 cents made overseas, and they're hoping to get you to just mention it in a post. If it's something that you're into and you want to do it, but I think the best way moving forward is finding an organic partner that really aligns with your brand. And that's going to take some either you reaching out to people or just sitting there and waiting for someone to come to you. But I know in person, my personal experience is I've done a couple of these things where it's not quite a match, and it's just hard. I don't like doing it. I don't feel comfortable sharing, my thoughts on something that I didn't know about a week earlier. And
the audience feels uncomfortable too. I mean, you got to know that if you're feeling that, they're going to feel it. There's a disc golf video maker. He follows these tournaments around. And so I sometimes watch him on YouTube. And one of the sponsors is just like she's talking about. It makes no sense that it's like
the dog collar.
It is organic dog food, actually. It's funny that you guessed that. And every time he tries to slip that in, like, hey, that was a great shot by that guy. And by the way, do you like organic dog food? It just every time it takes me right out of the experience, and then it makes me not trust the other stuff.
Right.
So your trust is the only thing that you have, for your audience, for the people that follow you, and seeming like the ability to grow. People have to trust you, and if all of a sudden you seem like a sellout, which you will, if all of a sudden you're selling this and that that has nothing to do with you, you're going to lose that credibility, and it's hard to get back.
There's a fine line. I watch a lot of YouTube channels unrelated to illustration as well as related to illustration. And there are people that do these long, some advertisers make you do long form videos that are embedded in your video. And most people I'm assuming like they're like me, that we just skip over them.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like, it doesn't relate to me. Like one channel I follow, it's a financial channel, and he's pushing this video game, and I don't play video games anymore. I don't have time.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I know I want to help you because I really like you, but I'm not going to watch this commercial because I'm not going to play video games. So there's that. Yeah. But then there's another guy who, like, if I'm watching an illustrator and they're like, I've been using these pens forever. And then this company reached out to me. They found out I was using their pens, and they this is a paid promotion thing. I might buy that pen because it's like you were already using it. You're already making this beautiful artwork, and bonus land, you got a sponsorship from the very company that you were already using their product. That's credible. But then I'll watch a financial channel where this guy gives great financial advice, and then every now and then he'll do a whole video where I miss seeing this is a sponsored video at the top, and his whole video is an infomercial for an investment. As soon as I find that out, I'm done. I love the guy. I'm like, I'm not going to watch your video because I cannot trust. I don't know if you invested your personal money. He says, well, he'll say, well, I'm invested in this company as well. $5.
Right.
Did he spend $5 on it? Okay. So he's now invested. Technically, I can't take your advice. So yeah, you don't want to ruin your brand by making a partnership. And I think Carly Ann already knows this. She's very savvy. She was one of our students for a while, and she's got this amazing book called something about cute. What is it?
How to Draw Adorable.
And
that's what you should be pushing. Promoting is your book and all different, everything having to do with that. How to Draw Adorable by Carly Ann Tipsy. It's available on my website, or it's available if you got it on Amazon, put it on Amazon. But
and if she had money, if you see Carly, here's the thing about artists. We are creating the product, right? We are creating the product. That's the most amazing thing, is that we don't. So Carly Ann should be looking for other people that draw cute and reaching out to them to push her book on their channel, and it would go right along with. They're drawing cute stuff every day.
Good idea.
Look what I found. This How to Draw Adorable. Now, of course, you got to have some money and
you can always do it with affiliate links, and that's what I don't like, is when companies reach out, even companies that I would use, they reach out and they, like Jake said, would give me a trinket in exchange for promoting it as something I use and I like. That's not an equal thing. But affiliate links are fantastic. If they said, hey, you promote this on your channel, here's a code to send them a link or whatever, and then for everyone I sell, I should at least 25%. You should get at least 25%. And I would have gladly done that. But this one watercolor company, which I actually like their product, they just gave me a little palette and a little sketchbook. I'm like, I just did one post and that was it. And I'm not never doing that again.
Also, don't be afraid to say, oh, sorry, any sort of post I do, I have like a $500 base that, essentially it's my get out of bed fee, right? Like you have to set this base because they have budgets. A lot of these companies have an advertising budget, and they're trying to get away, not having to dip into that budget by giving away product. And you could just say, hey, sorry, I don't do any promotions unless they're paid, and my my threshold is $500 or $1,000 or $1,500. You figure out what it is, and that's if you do want to engage with this brand. If not, just ignore it. You don't owe it to anybody, and I would just choose wisely who you decide to promote and work with.
I used to get so many offers. I know you did too, Jake, with YouTube, and I didn't take any of. I took early on. I took a stylus, and I took a drawing monitor,
the tablet
monitor,
Huion.
The Huion. Yeah.
How'd that Huion work out for you?
It was actually Unova that I did a review on. And it was decent, and it was a good fit for my channel because I was already drawing on a Cintiq monitor, so it was a good fit to review it. I don't have time. I started getting a lot of other tech reviews and a lot of other tablet monitors and stuff that wanted me to review theirs, and I'm like, I don't have time to do that. To get it, to play with it, set it up, to play with it. I mean, this is a lot of time. They don't pay enough.
Yeah, no benefit to you to do all that.
And can I tell you, I just remembered a nightmare story. I don't know if it's a nightmare, but it was just a pain in the butt story, right? So this company reaches out and they're like, hey, we've got these really cool LED light tables. Can we send you one and will you promote it? And I was like, I actually want a cool LED light table, like a light box, right? Yeah. The thing is, it's like the width or the thickness of like a clipboard, like from PE, with the coach holding the clipboard, right? And it was 11 by 17 or a little bit bigger, and it had a USB plug-in. You could plug it into your adapter, or you could plug it into whatever. And I got it, and I was like, oh, this thing's really cool. It works great. So I would use it to like trace over, and I did some examples. I did a couple of videos, and I had a link up, and I sent people to it, and a handful of people, I don't know how many people bought it, but there was a friend of mine who bought one, and it didn't work. If I remember the story correctly, it didn't work, and the replacement one didn't work. And then they just ghosted her, and they never like responded to any of her emails or anything. She never got her money back. And she was contacting me, and she's like, can you contact them? Can you? And they this company vanished. Like they wouldn't return my emails or anything. Cause I was like, hey, I promoted this thing, and your product is, you're sending out like bad products. I need you to make it right with this person. Got nothing back. So sometimes you got to do a little vetting before you go down that road.
Yeah.
Next question. All right. I did a full color high-res illustration for free as a test. Am I a fool? So this person wants to remain anonymous, and they saw an ad by a small publisher seeking illustrators for YA books. They said, I reached out and got a response asking to do a test illustration for an unpublished story. It seemed weird that they were asking for a finished piece in 600 DPI, but I went for it because I was desperate. They replied several months later saying they loved it and they wanted me to do another test. I thanked them for the opportunity and said I can't accept unpaid work at the moment, but would be happy to do it for a fee. Something I learned from your podcast, they said. Predictably, I never heard back. This got me wondering, however, how common is it for clients to ask for test pieces, and how involved those typically are? And most importantly, should you get paid for test work? Thank you. 3PP is my number one podcast. Sounds like you got took for a ride there. I would watch out and see if your image is being published and sold on a book cover somewhere. That is not acceptable behavior for
no, not at all. The 600 DPI is
why would they ask for high res? That makes zero sense.
Been asked for a lot of test pieces, but never for high res, and
that's a red flag.
high res. I would always send 72 DPI, so I knew they couldn't print from it. At a low size, pixel size as well. So it was enough for them to really see good on the screen, but that's it. And that is, boy, that's a bad one.
Yeah.
But
So
it does, she doesn't say that they printed it, just that they wanted it 600, right? It doesn't say that.
I mean, why else do you want that?
They don't need it 600 DPI unless they want to steal it.
We should talk about spec art because, that's kind of what this is opening the door to. And should people do spec art? In the early days of my career, I was asked to do spec art for real companies, and they want a test piece. They're nervous. I mean, the amount of money they spend on books and other products is substantial, and they want to know that you're going to perform well. It's weird that they can't look at your whole portfolio and get a sense of what you do. They want this exact thing with this exact character. But that's it. I just want to throw out there that it's not unusual to get asked that. I sent a JPEG, I think at 150 pixels per inch. So not quite high res, but not super low res either. But these were the companies that I already knew. If I didn't know them, that's a little bit different story. But if it's like Simon & Schuster asking for it, or Penguin, I just wanted to say that it's not a weird thing. Most companies will pay you for a spec piece. That's the majority. Do you guys agree with that? Or
yeah. That's been my experience. Is you'll either get some sort of, they have a budget for test pieces, or you'll get, if it's a piece that they ended up not using but you spent time on, there's like a kill fee that you can get, but that's usually after you've signed a contract with them. One thing you could do, I just thought of something that you could do, is send the full piece at 72 DPI, essentially web resolution. And then if they ask for high resolution, send them half of it. So cut it in half vertically and send it half so they could see, here's how the brush strokes look up close. Here's what it looks like. And I'd be like, well, where's the other half? And you'd say, if you want the full piece, that's going to be my rate, essentially, my illustration rate.
I like that.
I have a foolproof way of deciding whether you're going to take spec work or not.
Ooh.
Okay. You ready for this? Here's the Will Terry rules on spec work. Because I have done a ton of it in the past. I don't do it much anymore because I'm working on my own projects and stuff. But I have gotten a lot of work from spec work. I've also not heard back on a lot of it. And I've been paid for, this is going to be an estimate, probably half of it. Okay. Probably half of the spec work I've done, I got paid for. But my criteria for taking it or not taking it has been, do I have the time? Number one. And if I have the time to do it, is it something that I can put in my portfolio? Is it something I'm going to have a lot of fun doing? Like, this is an amazing opportunity to do a piece that I would have never done on my own. And I need to constantly make work as an illustrator, right? I got to make portfolio pieces, personal work. Can I use this for that? If so, then I would do it for free. If I'm going to get a rockin' piece out of it that I can share on my social media, because that kind of work has often led to more work. I can look back at my older portfolios and go, this I did on spec, and I didn't get the spec job, but I got these other 3 jobs from people seeing it.
The spec, right.
Whenever I would ask, when a client would say, hey, we want to hire you for this, I'm like, hey, what images did you like for my portfolio? And they would send them over. They would email them to me. That way I could know what part of my portfolio is working. But often it was those spec pieces that got me work. Okay.
Right.
So there's that. If it was something that I didn't want to do, something that I didn't know how good it was going to turn out, it was kind of weird, kind of out of my comfort zone a little bit. Yep, I need to be paid for that one if I'm going to do it, because I'm probably not going to be able to use it for my portfolio. So I did several spec jobs for Hasbro, and one was for a toy that when you run it across the floor, the sparking toy, the one that runs that, I don't know what it's called. Jake would know. What's that that thing where you like a car or something, and then it like makes sparks when you run it across the floor. Anyway,
I can't remember.
They've used that technology in a lot of different toys, but they were going to use it in this newfangled one that looked dumb to me. It wasn't a good fit for me at all, but they were offering a pretty decent chunk of money for doing the test piece. And it would have been cool to have it. My kids were at an age where if I had had that in like Walmart, they'd be like really jazzed because they were into stuff like that, So it was like there were reasons. I didn't end up getting the job, but I got paid really well, and it didn't go in my portfolio. I couldn't use it, so it works. Then to me, that's how I always decided whether I wanted to do spec work or not.
That's good. It's a good metric to decide for that. Definitely, you want to walk away with a portfolio piece every time, at least.
I tell you this,
or a check.
When you do decide to do that, because I've done that too, Will, where there's an assignment that like it looks pretty juicy. It's right in line with kind of what you want to do and make, and you can kind of picture the whole thing. I got this offer to do this spec piece for this YA novel, and I was going to be doing all the chapter heads and all the all these interior illustrations. But the subject matter was awesome. It was about these weird ghosts that were inhabiting London, like old time London. I just couldn't. Oh, it was right in line with what I wanted to do. I did the spec piece and I was like, okay, here we go. And I just, every time I do something, even like when entering the lottery, I always think I'm going to win. I guess everybody does, but I just do that spec piece and I'm like, all right, give me the job. And then I didn't get it. And I was so crushed. So once you get invested, it's hard to get out of that. But like you said, you do get you get the piece out of it, and it kind of guides the direction of, it really changed. Even though I didn't get the job, I started to think, okay, what kind of images do I want to make? Because that really got me excited. And I was like, okay, I paid attention to that part, and that can change your career. Those little kernels that are kind of guiding you to the kind of art that you need to make.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Next question. This comes from Amelia. She says, how important is marketing for people who want to be full-time illustrators? We all know it's important to do good work, but how important is it to do good marketing, and how much does this vary across different types of illustration? Thanks. I love the show.
This could be 3 podcast episodes right here.
But we talked about it a ton. Last episode was all about.
Is it too repetitive? Do we need to go into it?
No, I just want to point out, go look up Samantha Cotterill. She's an episode we did last year. She's a working illustrator who has 0 social media presence. She's deleted all of her accounts. She doesn't spend time on social media, really. She said she just instead subscribes to 20 magazines and she reads those instead. So she just always has one. She's a delightful illustrator, great personality, like just personality in her work, personality in just in the conversation that we had. And she's doing it because she has a great agent who's talking to the right editors, and she has a good style that people want. And so she's not out there trying to sell prints of her work. She's not out there trying to, self-publish or anything. She's just doing the publishing thing, and she's doing great. You got other artists like, I think of like Kazuo Kibuishi. Granted, he's got a very successful book, but that's all he does is he focuses on his book series, and he's made it really, really great. And he's had some luck there as well of good timing and having a great publisher backing him. So you have that extreme where you have hyper success with Kazuo. You have Samantha, who I wouldn't say is like selling millions of copies of a graphic novel, but she's getting solid, continuous work as an illustrator. And I think it's possible. It's important, I think, that your marketing efforts be, if you just want to be an illustrator that's not worried about social media, that you do put time and effort into building your network of people in the industry who can make the decisions to to hire you or to talk to the people that do the hiring. And so that might be that you spend some time on LinkedIn. That might be that you go to in-person events, SCBWI events where you get to know these people in person, whether they be agents or editors, things like that. And you work it that way. And I think that's a reasonable way to go. What do you guys think?
I gotta say that there seems to be, like, you could do case studies on, let's say, 3 or 5 different types of illustrators, right? Because it's such, that's why it's such a broad term. And that's why I say it could be 3 or 5 podcast episodes. Because if you take the illustrator that wants to create their own brand, their own product line, and market their own products, they're probably going to have to know a lot about, learn how to be a good marketer, right?
Yeah.
And then if you take someone who is just breaking into the business and they don't want to create their own products, but they want to work for clients, right? That's another person, the entry level person. They're going to have to be pretty good at marketing their work to get noticed, right? And then if you take the illustrator who has been well established over time and is creating decent work, but definitely not the best. Let's say a level 8 or 7 or 8 illustrator, right? In the, if you ranked everybody 1 to 10, and you could rank on metrics. I mean, it could get really complicated, right? You could, like, how fast are they? How reliable are they? How good at narrating concepts are they? How good technically are they at showing academic characters? Are their characters appealing to specific markets? But let's say they're a level 7, they're probably going to have to learn how to do good marketing because their work isn't good enough to constantly beat out the competition. But if they can get their work in front of enough people that hire, art directors and editors, then by sheer numbers, they'll be able to carve out a career because they're visible enough to enough people. And then you take the illustrator who is a level 10, someone like I would say is a Jim Madsen, who doesn't market at all and doesn't have to. He gets assignments from his rep. He gets too many assignments from his rep. He can't do them all. And he has a wait time almost always but he's super fast. He is super, his competence level on illustrating exceeds almost anybody that I know.
Yeah,
and
he's incredible.
He doesn't have to do any marketing because his rep just gives him the jobs. The rep has the website. Clients know they can go to that rep to find good work. They always see Jim's stuff standing out, and they're always trying to get his time and trying to buy his time. They're all fighting over his time. He just
Craziest
works.
thing about Jim is he defies everything you expect an artist to be.
Yeah.
Like you look at his work and you're like, oh, I know exactly who this guy is. I can just, by looking at his work, I can tell, what he has for breakfast, what he does on the weekends. I know what he does for fun, right? And then you actually meet the guy and know the guy, and it is exactly the opposite. And,
That's so funny.
So that's just one of those funny things. I worked with him. We worked in the art department together at Imagine Learning for a year, and I shared an office with him, and he's a super cool guy. But every time I was just like, you're not the. I just didn't expect that. Anyways,
right.
Okay, so yeah.
Let me add a little something to that. This is going to be some tough love for our audience. But I want to. I wanted to kind of elaborate on what Will was saying a second ago, because he's totally right. Even though David Hone says we don't argue enough, so I need to find something to argue about. But on this kind of stuff, man, we've seen enough sample size, I guess, where that's why we tend to agree on this stuff, because we've all been teachers for so long. I used to tell my students that your success, like I graded for real. Like if you turned in your work on time and it was of average level, that's a C. It doesn't mean it's an A because you turned it in and it looks good. A means, substantially better than most people. And so once students got used to that, they kind of liked it because it was real. And then I would tell them that the difficulty of your career will line up exactly with where you're falling within your skill range. So if you're an A, you might think like, oh my God, this is such an easy career. I mean, because I didn't give many A's, out of a 20 person class, maybe 3 people got the A's. Those 3 people are going to find the career a lot easier. They're not going to have to market like Will was saying. They're already that good. Good will always find work. I mean, we look at, and now that doesn't mean that good people don't have to market. Like you look at like a Loish, which we've talked about a bunch. She's fantastic. If she wasn't doing so well on Patreon and Kickstarters and all that stuff, she would still be monstrously successful.
She could just do client work. She could just do client work and never have to market and just put her head down. She'd earn a lot less, but she'd have a full plate.
I don't know about that. I think she'd be equally successful. It would just be in a different way because she's so good.
She's leveraging the market though. Like she's able to sell. When you create products, there's no limit to how many of them you can sell. So that's why I say her potential in that area to me is a lot.
So if you're A+ level like Loish, you're going to get work no matter what you do. It doesn't matter at all. And then because reps are going to be all over it. You just say, hey, I want a rep. And then there'll be 10 of them at your door. Then you go down to the A level, Loish is like A+. And then you go to the A level and they're just like average, really good pros. They're going to be pretty successful. And then you go down to the Bs, and those people are going to be the ones who have to work and really market, understand their niche, understand where they fit in the market, and then really cater to this and that. They're going to have more struggle. And then people that were at the C level and below won't get work at all. And so that's just kind of the way our industry works. It's the way any industry that's skill-based works, like professional sports, professional musicians, professional creative.
Well, think about athletes. some brands like that never advertise. So like In-N-Out has never spent any money on advertising.
Yeah, it's true.
I never thought about that.
Because
In-N-Out Burger
they nailed their product. Trader Joe's doesn't spend any money on advertising, and the better your product is, the less you have to market it. It sells itself. So that's really one of our pieces of advice we've given to students is, spend your time honing your craft, and your craft isn't just the drawing and painting part. It's the thinking. It's the concept.
Storytelling. Yeah.
It's the storytelling. It's like, I often point to Piper Thibodeau, who is, she's this illustrator out of Canada, and she lives in this tiny town way up north in Canada. And, how could she become a super successful illustrator living where she does? And it's because her work is so good. Her ideas are so good. She started doing a daily paint on Twitter and Instagram, and she just kind of blew up where clients found her from all those social media posts. And you could call that good marketing. She just put her head down and said, I'm going to make a painting every day, using these creative prompts that was, I believe it was Sketch Dailies that she was using at first. And so she got to do what she wanted. She was getting work while she was in school. Her teachers were giving her crap because they wanted her to do their assignments, and she was really busy doing client work. And, and anyway, I had a conversation where she asked me, like, should I finish school or do client work and just lean into that, which was the question I couldn't answer for her. But that's a good problem to have as a student, right? And it was because her work was so good.
All right. So focus on quality and also depends on what you want to do as an illustrator. Next question from Leo. Subject, what do they need to know? Okay, so he says, hello, Will, Lee, and Jake. First, it's always interesting to see who they put first in the intro. Like, is it going to be Lee first? Is it going to be Jake? Is it going to be Will? We know who they really wanted to talk to. Anyways, I'm not a student of SVSLearn, but I have loved listening to your insights into the career of illustration. However, I am a high school art teacher in Southeast Iowa, and I'm working on developing a beginner's illustration class as a part of my curriculum. And I was wondering if you could provide any insight into what you would like all of your students to have an understanding of before coming to you as college and online instructors. Any insight would be great.
Question.
Yeah, what should they be learning in high school?
This is a dream art teacher in high school.
For real.
For
real. Right off the bat, I would say the fundamentals. Obviously, they're going to need perspective. They're going to need to understand light and shadow, composition, all those things. But should we name them off specifically? What if we each tell our most important thing that we wish our students had? Yeah. Outside of fundamentals, right?
Sure.
Right. Okay. Go for it, Will.
We'll do the fundamentals first then.
Okay. So the fundamentals, tell me if I miss any, but perspective, light and shadow, some understanding of color theory, though that's like a lifetime pursuit. Seems like some understanding of anatomy and how to gesture a character in a pose, right? Composition, an understanding of how to compose a piece so that there's focal point and there's sort of
rebrand composition to encompass design. I mean, being a good designer gets you so far, more than all those other things that Jake just mentioned. In my opinion, good design will trump all that other stuff.
We basically want the high school art teacher to do our job, so we don't have anything to do.
Okay. Well, we want to be able to reinforce it. I mean, that would be the best case scenario. If by the time you got to us, you're hearing it for the fourth or fifth time. That's when it really starts to sink in and you get the nuance of it versus just the big, I can't stand giving a perspective lecture where I'm starting with, this is a 2-point perspective box. It would be so much better if I was like, this is a complicated curved form in 2-point perspective. That would be such a better lecture.
Yeah. Okay. So those are the foundations. Will, what would be the thing?
I found that myself, when I went to school, in 92, when did I go to school? Yeah, in 90. No, I graduated in 92. Didn't graduate, but finished in 90.
Really important detail.
Thanks. Yeah, in 87 or whatever, when I started, I couldn't, but the teacher would give an assignment and an illustration assignment, and I couldn't draw anything out of my head to even start roughing something out on paper. Okay. So, and I've used this example a lot. I got the assignment to do one illustration that represented a nursery rhyme, and she assigned them out, and I got, Old King Cole was a merry old soul, blah, blah, blah. You had these Fiddlers 3, right? I didn't even know how to gesture a king versus a little fiddler or something, I couldn't start anywhere. So I went to the library, I got a children's book on Old King Cole, and there were all the answers there. So I just copied the characters in that book and passed it off as my own. But I didn't know what else to do. I didn't want to plagiarize. I really didn't.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how to do, this was our first illustration class. There was no help. And it was like, okay, so this is your first assignment and we want to see sketches in a couple days. So I come back and I've sketched this thing out and she loved it. And the whole time I'm feeling like I didn't do anything. I just copied some other illustrator's illustration. So what I did was I had a class at UVU that was called Imagination and Visual Literacy. And it's a long story, but I ended up creating curriculum for myself for solving this problem, because I was getting kids coming in from high school and I would have them draw. Sometimes we would draw from reference. Sometimes I would say, hey, I want you to put all the reference away. And I just want you to draw a school bus and I would give them a little prompt or something, but I want, a bird's eye view looking down on the school bus, and just to kind of test them out. And most of them couldn't come up with anything. They couldn't put a imaginary camera above a school bus and make it look like a school bus, keeping any kind of, some did okay with it, but most couldn't. And I saw myself there. And so then I would work on like, okay, how do we break that school bus down into a is it called a trapezoid? I
don't know. A three-dimensional,
whatever that
rectangle.
is. Yeah. Three-dimensional rectangle, and how we can manipulate that and move the camera around all different places underneath of it, everywhere. So being able to rough out something from your head, finding a shape and manipulating it in space is, to me, very important to be able to convey ideas and to be able to start thinking in a thumbnail, right? Sketch, to be able to just start for something. So that's a skill that I wish that I had. And I don't think it takes that much. It just takes practice.
Okay. Lee?
I'd say the big thing is being able to recognize why something is interesting before painting a full painting about it. I mean, it's one of the little series that we're doing here at SVS is How to Fix Your Art. And we were doing corrections on some of them the other day. And those are on YouTube when we're doing them live, but they're available to our subscribers. They can watch these videos. But one of the things we were talking about in the last one is okay, you made this illustration. There's a whole scene here. There's cars and people and buildings. And the whole thing is just not that interesting. Not because of how you drew it, just because of what you drew. Like, I couldn't make that scene more interesting. And I don't think any of it, I mean, we're three pros here. I don't think any of us would have drawn that scene. And so just backing up and saying, why am I making this piece of art? What am I trying to say? And what am I trying to convey? And why is it interesting? And I mean, that'll eliminate like 90% of the amateur art out there, because you don't know why somebody's drawing something the way they're drawing it.
Because we end up seeing, you and I, we've all had this discussion. We end up seeing pieces of art that are making a statement, that are saying something extremely boring, and they spent 20 hours saying something really boring. Right? It's like, and I've used this analogy, like, hey guys, I got to tell you something. Yeah, I've heard this really cool thing. Yeah, right. It's a school bus driving down the road, and you guys are like, what? That's what some people's illustrations are. It's just that boring.
Right.
Here's we got one of those illustrations. When was it? Last week for How to Fix Your Art. It was actually pretty well rendered, but the story was, it just showed a girl late for something. She obviously was late and running from her car to something, but there was no like context for what it was. Was it school? Was it job? Was it something else?
What was going to happen? There
was nothing that showed why she was late or the consequence of her being late, and that's what so yes. Okay. So Lee's is some sort of storytelling. Will is draw from some sort of being able to draw from imagination. Mine would be, I would like them coming into college, having done at least 20 master studies of whatever it is, the profession that they're wanting to go into. If they want to be a comic artist, here is a full page that I copied and learned and studied from by Jim Lee or by Mike Mignola or whoever. If they're wanting to get into animation industry as a concept artist, here's 20 master studies of visual development pieces that I've done from these art books, right? It's akin to a pianist or a violinist just learning how to play an already written piece by Mozart, and they could sit down and they know what all the notes are and they've done the scales to support that, and they could play that piece flawlessly and maybe even add a little bit of their personality to it. And because that's great that you could do that, but if you want to be a professional musician, oftentimes you're going to be required to write your own music or to make your own music. And as a professional illustrator, that's all it is. Nobody wants to see 500 Mona Lisas from you. They want to see the next thing. They have an idea and they want you to do it. And so I think you need to have that practice, having gone through, and understand what makes a piece work, and then apply that to their whatever they're creating next.
Do we have a master studies class at SVSLearn.com?
No.
That would be a good one for our curriculum. I would love to make that class.
Because we have developing great visual stories, and we have visualizing, drawing, and perspective, which are the two that Lee and I talked about. But Jake, you don't have a class to represent your...
Yeah, I need to hey, you guys just go take this class. How to do a master study. Another class I want to do that we absolutely should do, because I was just talking to a friend of mine this week, and he spent the last 3 days working on this. And I've also spent, a good chunk of my week last week working on this. And what it is a class on how to pitch an idea, how to present an idea to a publisher or to an art director or to an investor or whatever. How do you present your work? How do you build a pitch deck? How do you put together a good, solid presentation of your work specifically for pitching an idea?
And I can attest that Jake has done some amazing ones that I've been privy to see, and that would be a great class.
Yeah.
That's a valuable thing. In fact, I'll bet most illustrators have never heard of a pitch deck before. Mm-hmm. Most of our listeners probably haven't.
Yeah.
I hadn't until you did it.
Definitely got to make that a class. That would be fantastic. Can I give people the 3 steps to doing a master copy?
Yeah. Let's hear it right now.
The 3 steps. These are my recommendations. See what you guys think, if maybe there's more. But the main 3 is do the master copy and don't just half-ass it. Can we say that on air? It needs to be, my criteria in my classroom is I shouldn't be able to tell the original from your copy. That's how close I want it to be. And then the next step is study what you learned. And break it down to the different elements. Here's the value pattern. Here's how they use strokes. Here's how they used edges. All the stuff. What's all the components of it. You need to break it down. They used high contrast. They used a lot of perspective, or they used no perspective. They used design or didn't use design, whatever. And so break it down, in written words, with arrows pointing to it. Look how they did this. Look how they did this. And then try your own version of it using those qualities that you learned.
When in our school, we had an assignment of the postage stamp one, where you copy a postage stamp and then you mail yourself a letter, and if it gets to you, or mail it to the teacher. If it gets to them, you pass that assignment. If not, you fail. So they realized that that's kind of like stealing. That's theft, because you're using
go to jail.
But the thing is, you're right, Lee, and I when I was teaching acrylic painting class and an oil painting class, and I'd have students copy reference. Sometimes I'd project reference on from the projector and say, I want you to paint that as closely as you can in the time that we have, and I would have students that would be done in an hour, and they'd be like, is this good enough? Is this good enough? And I had to try to educate them. Number one, you can't do this in 2.5 hours of our studio time. You won't be able to do it. But even saying that, I'd have students I don't know what else to do. They'd come up to me, I don't know what to do. I'm an hour in and I don't know what to do. I'm like, well, does it look exactly like the thing projected? Well, kind of, I'm like, and so I don't know if they, I don't know if they didn't like the assignment and they just wanted to be done and do something, move on to something else. But I found out that a lot of students don't have the ability to focus in and just put their head down and work hard. And that's a skill that is developed over time. I didn't have that. I would have been one of those students, by the way, who would have come up and said, is this good enough? I was so ADD when I was in school, and I couldn't work on an illustration for more than a half an hour or an hour, and then I was done. Right. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. hopefully that answers Leo's question. I'd like to get a follow-up after the semester's over to see how it went.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll finish out this episode with is my work good enough for this market question? And this comes from Emily. And she says she's an illustrator artist, and I'm just starting on my journey towards editorial and middle grade illustration. Over the last few months, I've been working on new pieces for my portfolio in order to have suitable art for these markets. Illustrating book covers, chapter, and graphic novels would be my dream place, but I wonder if my illustrations are good enough. So you guys want to pull up her portfolio there, you can. I consider myself a beginner. I have a lot to learn and incorporate into my compositions, but I'm working hard at practicing daily and learning constantly. I deeply appreciate your professional advice and critiques. So she just wants to know, is she good enough yet, or is she insecure and it's fine, or does she need to work on it? So let's pull it up. I'm going
I think you could answer her question.
Yeah.
On those, the two pieces of the witch in the bedroom. And
are you on her Instagram account?
Yeah.
Is that what you're looking at? Okay, so go to isamej.art. So isamej.art. You can check this out, or go to our YouTube video of this, and you can see here. So the witch in the house image, this one, right?
But well, there's two. There's one where you're looking in from the window with the roof. Yeah, that one, and then there's the other one that looks like it's the same story.
Is it down farther?
Yeah.
Oh, this one?
Yeah, that one.
Oh, okay, from inside the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have, just to describe her style, I would say it's kind of like a classic illustration and a Mary Blair. There's a Mary Blairness to it, but also a contemporary Emily, what's her name? Rebecca. I'm scanning through the people we've had on. We actually interviewed her. Lee, you and me interviewed her. She lived in Japan and then moved to.
Oh, you're talking about Rebecca Green?
Yeah, Rebecca Green. So there's a little bit of that with a little bit of Mary Blair in this style, I would say, just to describe it. Rebecca Green's, go back and check out that interview. That was a really good one. She does a great blog post every month as well. But okay, what is your critique here, guys? Is she good enough?
No.
I mean, and the yes or no answer is harsh because, it's like, okay, no.
I would say not yet.
Not yet, yeah.
Because if there's like the group that you just showed is like the 20 posts at the top of the page. And then once you go like 20 posts down, it is like an entirely different person.
Yeah. Well, and which it should be. She's exploring all the time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at a person's career, let's say you could see, an anthology of every piece of work every artist ever did. You would, if you took the top illustrators and you went all the way back, you would always get to this, right? Mm-hmm. You would always distill down to exactly what this looks like. And when teaching at university, I have my students come in, see their portfolios, and we all start here because we're exploring, and this is where you should be. She just hasn't done enough work. This is Emily, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Emily, you just need to do a lot of work. There's a lot of work to get to where you want to be. And it's just a matter of doing it, really. And paying attention to certain things. We could give you, like the top one where we're looking in, the other one where we're looking in from the window outside. There's some definite perspective problems, which are apparent when you look at this piece, and you couldn't see the floor from that angle, and so understanding
I don't mind that though. Like if it's that style, that kind of quirky, style. I mean, to do that all the time, but the problem is how this piece goes together. Not necessarily one element per se, but how it all comes together. Looks like she's like, okay, I'm going to play with texture. I'm going to play with forced perspectives and stuff like that. But it's just not coming together.
But see, what my contention would be is you wouldn't make a drastic decision like this with your perspective. You can break the laws of perspective in a way that communicates. This doesn't. This creates a situation
like
where the viewer is looking at an image on the side of a house versus looking in.
No, that's true.
And so
and the pose of the main character is rough too. And so,
remember when it was trendy to show the top of a pot and you'd see an ellipse and then to show the bottom flat?
I do that. I still do that.
Right. And that is fun. And it works because it's usually in an environment where you're like, oh, that's drawn kind of primitive and wonky, you know?
Yeah.
But we still know it's a pot. But with this, it's so wonky that it's not, I don't believe it's intentional. And maybe it is. I don't know. But if it is, it's too much of a stretch for the viewer. So that's one thing that I would point to. And I'm sure there's a lot of other things that we could point out that you could work on. There's also a lot of great things that are working too.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like this roof design, excellent. This character design, great. Not a good pose, but a great character design.
What would you do different? What would you do different on that pose?
Well, number one, like it's about her and this wand, and the wand is like obscured by the middle support for the window, right? So I would have that, like her full arm coming across so we could see the whole thing, probably some magic coming from the tip of the wand. And then her pose would be not so symmetrical, but something that shows, a little bit more motion to it. Like she's thrusting, or she's like, giving this wand a little bit more energy behind it. Right. So it's like all these components by themselves, great, but they've been put together in a way that it's like, it's just not quite gelling. I think she is, I want to say like 20 pieces away from having really figured out her style and how all these elements work. 20 of these kind of pieces away from it.
I agree, Jake. If I had to tag her with a kind of a label, I would say this is a person to watch.
Yeah.
Because she's cooking, all the ingredients are kind of bubbling around, right? She just hasn't found the right dish yet. But when she does and she's close, this is going to come together and be magical. And so she's good. Yeah. All the parts are good. Just the whole isn't there yet, but it's coming. This is somebody definitely to watch.
See, this works a little better. Maybe it's just cropped weird. If you go on her...
that bedroom scene, the interior is better because it's kind of wonky. It's done in isometric perspective, kind of wonky, but it all looks well referenced. It doesn't seem weird, kind of like Will was saying, looking into that flat view of the exterior.
It works a lot better.
Yeah, and so she's hitting it on some of them, and some of them aren't. And like Will said, that's exactly where she should be. She's playing with the style. She had this very realistic style, even up to looks like about a year and a half ago, and then switched to this kidlit style. So there's a whole different kind of set of ingredients and a different mark making, a different language that she's exploring, and it's going to look hodgepodge for a little while until it doesn't. And then she's going to, like I said, she's going to find one piece. It's going to make sense, and then the rest is going to be amazing.
Go back up. That Pet Cemetery one is pretty fun.
Yeah, that's nice.
This right here.
Yeah.
Go down to the black and white.
That's the black and white.
That's the best piece she has, probably.
Of course, Lee's going to say that. It's for those listening.
Most like Lee White's style.
Our YouTube is Society of Visual Storytelling. Most of you are probably not on.
Tell me which one is better than that.
Talking about.
Tell me which one's better than that. That is the best piece. That's the most cohesive piece she has. I think because her sense of color is a little bit off, and she's not adding that much. That piece was black and white, so it limited how much ingredients she was using. That's good stuff right there too.
I like this too. That's a good ghost. All right, we good?
I'm going
I
to
feel
give
like
one
Emily's got
last.
some direction.
Can I give one last little piece of advice? This has nothing to do with Emily stuff. There's a lesson that I fail to learn every single day. And I tell myself, don't do it. And that is never set your coffee cup next to your mouse. I knock my coffee over every single day. You'd think I would learn to move the cup onto the other side, but no, I just set it right down. Next to my mouse, I knock it over, and then I spend 20 minutes cleaning it up.
But if you have one of those waterproof mice.
Here's the
Mice?
trick.
Plural,
Is
past
learn to drink with your opposite hand. And then you're always going to set it down with that hand and not your mouse hand.
That would be better. That would
I
be
never
a smart person.
I'm more careful than you guys. I don't knock anything over.
Well, no, but here, if you guys could see this, the top of my coffee mug is bigger than the bottom, so it fits in my car holder, which is the worst design ever. It's top heavy.
Why don't you get a different mug? A desk mug. You've seen those desk mugs where it's like a pyramid,
the suction cup,
like a cone.
That would be way, because I'm a sipper, and so I drink my coffee it takes me like 5 hours, and so I'm just carrying it around throughout my day. I drive my son to school. I have it set in the thing.
You still have your morning coffee at 4 p.m.
I do.
All right, everybody.
Anyway.
Thank you for joining us. 3-Point Perspective is made possible by SVSLearn.com, where becoming a great illustrator starts. It's also made possible by our Patreons. Our patrons, not our Patreons. If you go check out 3-Point Perspective Patreon, you can get access to our monthly pro tips, where we each individually share what we're working on, how we're working on it, and like little tricks and ideas that just make our lives easier as a working illustrator. So I would say those tips and tricks are maybe worth the price of admission for that. Plus, on top of that, you get access to our patron-only live streams, which we do once a month. You get access to our patron-only hotline. So we did an episode last week where it was our hotline questions, and we got those people asked their questions the day we recorded the day before we recorded it. Oftentimes, the questions we read today lived in an inbox for a couple months or more. So if you needed an answer right away, become a patron. Go to one of those live streams or episodes that we're doing, and you're going to get a question answered ASAP. All right. Your hosts today have been Will Terry, Lee White, and Jake Parker. You can follow Will Terry at willterry.com, Lee White at leewhiteillustration.com, and I'm over at mrjakeparker.com. Podcast produced by Daniel Tu. That's danieltu.co, his website. Keeper of the curriculum, Austin Shirtlift, for our foundations courses you can take over at svslearn.com. Shownotes Wrangler, Lily Howell. And if you ever have a question or you want to dig in a little bit deeper on this episode, go check out those show notes. She does a great job with that. And then our chief operations officer, who makes sure that the bills get paid and the lights stay on, is Lisa Fott. So thank you, all you people. Now go draw something. That's how you knock out an episode.
Boom shakalaka.
AI hands. Let me hold my phone with one. This is like one hand right here.
I'm going to move my mouse. My AI hands. And then AI eyes.
Yeah. They are a little bit iguana style.
Yeah.